Yo, Shortbox Nation, this is Botter, and I'm here to tell you right now that con season starts early this year with the return of Northeast Florida's premier anime, comic book, and sci-fi event, Collective Con. That's right, Northeast Florida's largest pop culture convention returns for its 10th year on March 8th through the 10th at the Prime Osborne Center in Jacksonville, Florida. 10 years of Collective Con, they're pulling all the stops out to make sure this is a can't-miss event. And the guest list they got going, don't even get me started on the guest list. I mean, they've got A-list celebrity guests and voice actors from some of your favorite movies, anime, and video games like Elijah Wood and Sean Ashton, Ray Park, Trisha Helfer, Ross Marquand, Max Middleman, and Bo-Katan herself will be there, Katie Sackhoff. Tell me what other convention is giving you the opportunity to meet Frodo and Sam from Lord of the Rings, Darth Maul, and One Punch Man all under the same roof. Only at Collective Con. And if you're looking to get some of your favorite comics signed, or if you want to get an original sketch from some of the best comic artists in the world, well, you're in luck, because there'll be plenty of comic and creator guests there, like DC comic artist extraordinaire Clay Mann, Harvey Award-nominated illustrator John Taylor Christopher, Marvel and DC cover artist Chris Stevens, and acclaimed Star Wars author Timothy Zahn. They'll all be at Collective Con this year. And if you're looking to bring the family, or if you want to make a weekend out of it, you're in luck, because there'll be so much going on at Collective Con that weekend in the form of vendors, fan panels, video game tournaments, cosplay contests, after parties, and a bunch of fan events. You can purchase single and 3-day weekend passes now using the link in this episode's show notes, or by going to collectivecon.com to book your tickets and hotel. Buy your tickets now, and I'll see you at Collective Con, March 8th through the 10th. Now let's start the show.
Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you the Short Box Podcast.
The Short Box Podcast is recorded live from Jacksonville, Florida.
Yo, Short Box Nation, welcome back to the podcast. How are you doing today? Did you hear the news about Marvel bringing back the Ultimate Universe? Or stop me if you heard this one before. There are rumors that we might actually get a decent Hellboy movie for once. All right, I'm pretty excited about even the mere mention of the word decent and Hellboy movie together. If none of those ring a bell, no worries, you're in the right place, because those are just a few of the topics we got lined up for you today. For all of you newcomers, my name is Botter. Ooh, I got my notification bell.
Oh, that was good timing. Did you do that on purpose?
I wish I could have. I'm going to put my phone on mute. I still haven't figured out how the MacBook lines up with the phone and all that shit. All right. That was Drew of all people, too. Leave with the Drew. You know, we always talk about Drew being the legal disruptor. Liabilities. Yeah, the disruptor. All right. Newcomers, welcome to the Short Box Podcast, the comic review and talk show where you hear the best conversations about comic books and other forms of pop culture they inspire. This is episode 382, and today we're catching up with the latest news and pop culture developments that have made headlines this past week. I'll be honest with you up front, right? It's going to be a lot of Marvel and DC news. They had a lot going on this week. So, of course, we've got a lot to talk about.
We've got things to talk about.
In addition to covering the news, we'll also be announcing the winner of a pair of tickets to Northeast Florida's premier pop culture and comic event, Collective Con. It's taking place here in Jacksonville, March 17th through the 19th. And if you are, a regular listener, you have definitely heard the ads playing at every single one of our episodes. Our patrons, though, have not heard the ads because they get them episodes ad-free. So maybe our patrons are like, what the hell? So like I said, we got a lot going for you today. So please make sure to check out the timestamps in this episode's show notes. If you're looking for anything specific, or if you're interested in a specific topic, I'll have all the timestamps in the show notes like I normally do. Now, joining me for today's pod is my extravagant, immaculate, I know immaculate starts with an I, bear with me, and a special co-host here in the studio with me. I got the Edmund Danzart here with me.
What's up? I'm going to be my rap name, E-Maculate. That's my new name, a.k.a. E-Maculate.
Damn, you see, I
appreciate that.
Nickname master over here. All right, and also joining us is another special guest co-host. Oh, shit.
Whoa, John Cena. What a get.
I'm
false advertising.
I'm hitting every single button on this thing except for the right one.
Oh, no.
All right, joining us, is a special guest co-host, and he's helping me continue my comic podcast, Homies World Tour. He's one half of the Wednesday Pull List. It's a weekly comic podcast For Nerds by Nerds. He and his co-host Simon are the friendliest pair of neighborhood comic reviewers out there. Shortbox Nation, let's give it up for Lex. What up, Lex?
Hey, what's going on, guys? Thanks for having me. I'm sorry I'm not John Cena, but I'm happy to be here.
Oh man, nah, but you deserve the John Cena intro, right? That's the very least we could do.
I dig it.
Lex, you have I will go ahead and admit on in front of our 20 listeners out there that you have one of my favorite comic related accounts on Twitter. And if I'm being honest, I get hip to more comic news via your tweets than I do from like official comic websites. I think you're like the fastest gun in the West when it comes to like comic Twitter.
I appreciate that. And for the record, if anybody out there decides to go to my Twitter account for news, it's a lot of sprinkled in nonsense too. So it's hard to decipher what is real and what's fake. So you kind of got to be around for a while.
I will say some of my favorite tweets is when you rile up the comic community with your hot takes on Batman and other topics.
It's so easy. So easy.
They're just begging for it.
Yeah, they are.
All right, before we begin, before we get started with today's topics and main show, I'd be remiss if I didn't shout out a few people that help make this show possible, like our incredible sponsors, Collective Con and Gotham City Limit. You heard about Collective Con at the top of the show. We'll be announcing our giveaway for those tickets on the second half, and you'll hear about our favorite comic shop later on. But you can't talk about the reason that we're able to keep this show going strong and not mention our loyal and badass and very spoiled Patreon community. Mm-hmm. I will admit, I started looking at other Patreon accounts and seeing what others offer. And I got to say, we should be charging way more for our Patreon.
Do it. Is that?
I was hoping you'd be like, no, about it. They deserve it.
Yeah.
No, I agree 100%. All right, inflation's gone up. Everything's going up. But no, we love and appreciate our Patreon community because they help us keep the lights on, and they give us a reason to record bonus content and try new stuff. And maybe this might be your first time listening, or this might come as a complete surprise to you. But aside from doing our weekly Wednesday shows, we also have a spin-off podcast where we talk about the best comic book, cartoons, and animated shows. Last week, me and Ed, we begrudgingly talked about G.I. Joe cartoons. Granted, it wasn't like the really good ones. It was kind of a mid one, but it turned out to be much better than we thought.
Yes.
So
we put that off as long as we could.
Yes, we did. G.I. Joe Renegades was the cartoon, which, once again, turned out to be a lot better than we thought. What we probably would have never touched that cartoon if it wasn't for our patrons. They just enjoy paying to watch us. They basically pay to torture us.
I think so.
Like a better term.
It was a test.
Surprisingly, I'm still shocked as hell that G.I. Joe Renegades beat out Static Shock in our Patreon poll. That's something I'll never forgive them for, but I'm past that now. All right, I'm past that now. So I say all of that to say if you're a listener who cannot stand having just one episode a week to enjoy, or you suffer from regular short box withdrawals, I'm here to tell you there is a cure, all right? The only cure is to give us some of your money every month to get access to our Patreon community. I'm telling you, just look, take your support and listening experience to the next level. Go ahead and join our Patreon community by either clicking the link in the show notes or going to shortboxjacks.com. A million thank yous in advance. With the sales pitch out the way, let's go ahead and get started on what's been going on in the world of comics and related pop culture so far. Lex, you are our guest of honor. How about you kick us off, man? What's been going on in comics?
As you mentioned, there's a lot of things going on. Lots of things we can talk about. The one thing that I wanted to talk with you guys about today is both major companies, Marvel and DC, have already announced their big summer events. Even though we're just off the heels of multiple events from Marvel, events from DC, it's nonstop. So for Marvel, we have the Contest of Chaos, and the tagline is absolute chaos corrupts absolutely. So I imagine that this entire event was generated by AI, and they just ran with it.
Yeah.
They had Bryan Hitch do the promotional art. I'm sure we'll talk more about Bryan Hitch in a little bit.
Yeah.
It just seems like heroes fighting heroes, which we get at least once a year.
There's a misunderstanding at first, and then they get
There's
along.
something.
Yeah.
It'll take us 10 issues to figure out the misunderstanding, but we're gonna have a good time doing it.
Oh my god.
Maybe.
Yeah. And when I was talking about it on Twitter, it's just like, yes, hey, here's the announcements for this. But what I really want to understand is how the supervillains in the Marvel Universe haven't won already.
Yeah.
If the superheroes are constantly just beating themselves up in the streets of New York, I would just be robbing banks. I would be doing anything else, just staying out of the way.
You know what I would do? I'd actually set a better example. All right, that's what I would do. That's why. You know what? Kingpin is someone that actually took that piece of advice. I mean, I believe in Daredevil. He ended up being the fucking mayor and all that.
Yeah.
It's a low hanging fruit. All right, like imagine being a supervillain and running on a platform like. You see what they're doing over there, and they're your heroes, right? Like I can't do any worse.
Yeah, he was on track to. His plan was to become president as well, and I see it happening. You know, all he had to do was stay the course and just stay out of the way.
Yeah. So that's primarily I mean, judging from this promo piece by Bryan Hitch for the Contest of Chaos, it face value, a bunch of superheroes fighting each other. But DC's big event. This what is it called? Night Terrors.
Night Terrors.
I kind of see a trend here that's been around for a little bit. Marvel
Knights with a K. With everything.
Everything.
That's actually a good observation.
Okay,
I was going with you have Marvel that can't seem to get past like what Mark Millar set years ago of Civil War. Heroes fighting heroes, right? They're still carrying that trope to this day. And DC lately has just really been leaning into like the horror aspect, like nightmares and twisted versions of characters. Lex, you got anything to report on this Night of Terrors?
I agree with you. First of all, ever since the success and wild popularity of The Batman Who Laughs,
Dark Knight Metal,
DC's like, yo, let's just double down on that. We need to sell a ton of books. So those people are buying it. Let's just sell it. Apparently, it's going to start in July. The event runs from July to August. It's a mini-series focusing on the Trinity. And it's like some obscure villains that they're going to have twisting the Trinity. And apparently they have to team up with Deadman, which I love obscure characters. So that piques my interest.
Same.
I don't have a lot of... I'm not a huge fan of like the DC horror stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But we'll see. I mean, also event fatigue is a thing.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
When I hear people talk about superhero fatigue in the movies, I'm like, bro, you have no idea what fatigue is in superhero our superhero world, all right?
That's not real.
You try to survive. You try being a collector from fucking 2010 to 2015, just at that, right? All the fucking Marvel events,
crossovers, reboots, soft reboots, hard reboots. Yeah.
Now I will say, I'm kind of just skipping through the article really quick, but isn't the difference with Night Terrors that it's not going to have? It sounds like they're trying to control the amount of tie-ins, right? Like they're only going to have like. It sounds like 2-issue little spin-offs or things like that.
That's what they're saying right now. So we'll see.
We have heard that before. You're right.
Yeah, they just did the Dark Crisis event, and that I lost track of the books that were.
They'll just have like 35 one-shots. Then we did cross over. Technically,
yeah, that's it.
Yeah,
that's
I can't recall. Come on. I think it might have been around like the time of like the Year of the Villains event or
Forever Evil or
well no it was like I think it was called Year of the Villains.
Oh yeah.
I think I can pinpoint that as when I kind of fell off of like collecting main DC like continuity and stories, because if I recall correctly, it was like You're the Villain, and they literally had 2 other events. One was like kind of a ice Arctic kind of theme. I'm definitely drawing a blank, but it was around like that time, and it felt like there was 2 big events going on, and there was multiple tie-ins, and I think I just had a moment of like, yo, this is way too expensive to even try to make sense of, first of all, and I kind of fell off of that. What I will say that kind of intrigues me with this Night of Terrors is that I've heard great things of Joshua Williamson and Howard Porter. I love seeing that he's still out here, cranking out the good work and drawing good stuff.
Yeah, I agree.
All right, good stuff. I'm going to follow up with Lex, because I think my first news piece correlates into this really well. I don't think this is I don't know how big this event is going to be, but it's definitely a new event coming out in the summer that's definitely piqued my interest because of one man in particular, and that is Jonathan Hickman is teaming up with Bryan Hitch for a new Ultimate Marvel comic. It's called Ultimate Invasion. It's going to hit shops June 2023. It sounds like it's going to tell a new story heavily centered around the Maker and Miles Morales, and it's seemingly going to pick up where 2015 Secret Wars left off, which was also written by Hickman and saw the end of the Ultimate comic line and universe. For those of you unfamiliar, Ultimate Comics in the Marvel world was started in the 2000s, thanks to the efforts of Bryan Hitch, Mark Millar, and Bryan Michael Bendis, to name a few. And then in 2015, Hickman came along and was responsible for its final chapter with Secret Wars. So it's kind of interesting that you've got, the person responsible for the birth of the Ultimate Comics line, Bryan Hitch, and then the end of the Ultimate Comics line, Jonathan Hickman teaming up to bring it back. So I think that makes for a really interesting pairing. It sounds intentful. It sounds like Hickman, just like Hickman is known to be as a writer, amongst other things, it sounds like he's really kind of has an intent in this. He said something to the effects that, first of all, Marvel laid this project in front of them. I guess they pitched the idea of bringing back the Ultimate comic universe. And I got a quote here that Hickman was saying, "We both knew there needed to be a good reason to revisit the idea of Ultimate Comics beyond telling a cool story or just getting to work together, which is something we've been trying to do for years." So I like that idea of like, yeah, this sounds like a great premise, but what is going to be the intent? What's the mission beyond just, cool pairing and cool story? It also sounds like both creators are really excited about revisiting the Ultimate Universe and working together. Bryan Hitch went ahead and expressed like his fandom for Jonathan Hickman. And he also said, quote, "I get to bring 2 decades of new experience as an artist and storyteller to this. It's new, it's different and familiar. It's big budget, high concept, widescreen storytelling. I feel right at home." And whether you like Bryan Hitch's artwork or not, I'll go ahead and admit, I think past Ultimates, I'm kind of hit or miss for Bryan Hitch. But one thing he is very capable of doing is drawing kind of like, in my opinion, kind of blockbuster comic books.
Yeah.
Those early Mark Millar, Bryan Hitch Ultimates, not only were they like blockbuster comic books, but they literally were the blueprint for blockbuster, movies, right? Like they helped the MCU, like in the early days, like launch off. That's what they were kind of primarily based off. So the fact that Hitch is, once again excited to revisit Ultimates, and I like this thing that he says, right? I get to bring 2 decades of new experience. Bryan Hitch is a seasoned comic book artist, man. And to think that it's been almost 2 decades since he's, touched the Ultimate Universe.
How crazy that it's that old.
Yo, that's...
Bones hurt.
Exactly. So, I mean, a part of me is like, damn, he's about to come correct with everything he's learned. So I'm excited to see how he approaches this and if he gets much better.
Yeah, the fact that he's... I don't know what's wrong with my voice. I'm sorry, guys. The fact that he's excited about it, especially a lot of times when you work for so long, you kind of are over doing, these characters. Okay, that's my past. I'm on to other things now. But the fact that he's excited about it.
Yeah.
And another thing I read that it was kind of hinted at maybe like could be a possible Illuminati reunion, like maybe the Ultimates version of the Illuminati. That'd be kind of interesting to see.
Yeah, I was going to say there's a lot of familiar faces and helmets, right? Because of Maker wears terrible joke. But I know in some of the promo, of course, Miles Morales is in the promos, the Maker, aka Evil Reed Richards, and a bunch of the Illuminati members, Reed Richards, regular Black Bolt, Namor, and a few others. And the best part, I think, out of all of this is it sounds like the series is complete if I'm reading in between the lines. I think Hickman said something to the effect of, we wanted this to be something that could really only exist in the comic space, a new way of thinking about and enjoying a new version of the Marvel Universe. I'm pretty happy to say that it feels like we've accomplished those things, and we're very excited for everyone to get to read it. So I read that as this is about to be epic, and it's done. And I feel like, how many...
Is because Hickman's on it? You're like, it's done.
Well, honestly, if we're running with Hickman's track record, he's a few of his stories have been known to like take long hiatuses or just never come back. So I'm hoping this is a case of like, we got a lot of issues in the can, or we've just completed it and we don't got to worry about it. I do know that for anyone that's as interested as I am in checking this out, you can get a preview of the project before it starts in June. They're going to have a lot of preview pages that'll be released as part of the free Comic Book Day Avengers X-Men #1 title, which will also have some previews of Hickman's other mystery Marvel project that he's doing with Valerio Schetti. So as a Hickman fan, this makes me super fucking excited that we're getting not 1, but 2 Hickman joints. And I want to hear from you guys. I think it's probably safe to say, I think it's a unanimous kind of like agreement that Miles Morales is probably considered to be the Ultimate Universe's best idea that came out of that version, the Marvel Universe.
Oh, yeah, easily.
Mm-hmm.
What are when you think about like the Ultimate Marvel comic line, what were some of your favorite titles, or what are some of the things that stick out to you the most?
The Ultimate Universe was a weird time when it came out. It really got me back into comics. I've been collecting comics since I was a little kid. Always just like the same stuff, Spider-Man, and then like just picking it up out of routine. But the Ultimate Universe got me into it. And as I got older, you realize that there's a lot of not so good stuff in there, sprinkled in some really, really good ideas. And I loved the Iron Man design. I could not get enough of how original it was. I love the first Ultimates. It was so good. I mean, even though there was some things that was like, it doesn't age very well.
AKA
so
Ultimates 3, I think, right? And
Ultimates 3. So, Ultimate 3 so bad.
It definitely, by the end of that lifeline, you were kind of, or that run, you were kind of like, yeah, this needs to go ahead and just be ended right here, right?
Yeah.
Hickman kind of did us a favor. It feels like Marvel kind of just, the powers that be just didn't really know what to do with it. And I think you just had so many titles. It just made sense to go ahead and, get rid of the doppelgangers. It sounds like for you, the mission of the Ultimates was successful, right? Like they started the Ultimates line to revamp and update the Marvel Comics line and like kind of bring the continuity to, like a more modern audience. Yo, this is Botter. Sorry for interrupting this episode, but I'll keep it brief. I wanted to let you know about a massive sale we have going on over at the Shortbox Store on all of our merchandise and apparel. That's theshortboxstore.bigcartel.com. You can now save 20% off your entire order using the discount code YOO, Y-O-O. So if you've been waiting for the right time to finally buy that gauntlet snapback, or if you ever wanted to buy any of the shirts you see me wear on the podcast, well, now's your chance to get them for a steal. We still have a few sizes left of everything, but they won't last long, and once they're gone, they are gone. And then I mentioned that all of our apparel is screen printed on high quality material. None of that heat transfer or direct to garment stuff. Our shirts are some of the most comfortable ones you'll ever wear, and the hats look even better in person. So wear your support for the Shortbox Nation proudly, knowing that you're going to look damn good doing it. Get to theshortboxstore.bigcartel.com as soon as you can, and don't forget to use that discount code YOO, Y-O-O, to save 20% off your entire order. All of this information can be found in this episode's show notes if you want to get there faster. Thanks for not pressing fast forward. Now back to the show.
Yeah. It definitely did. And Bryan Hitch at the time, I agree with you. Say, even though I'm not a huge fan of his artwork in the more digital era of making comic books, back then, so good. When he was on the Ultimates, when he was on the Authority, I was a huge fan of it.
Yeah.
Now I have different opinions now, as it seems like he's gone more digital, but that's a whole nother conversation. So I'm ready to see him back on this title, especially because he knows these characters so well. But yeah, it got me back into like caring about comic book stories, even though it ended up with like an Ultimate Avengers where they're fighting vampires, and it was like, yeah. We need to end this.
Ed, what about you, man? What comes to mind when you think of the Ultimates?
I remember, like I said, it's been a while since I revisited it, but the Ultimate Spider-Man, the Miles Morales, was, I think, easily the best thing that's come out of that. I do remember them. I remember liking the art. I remember at that time probably still liking kind of the edgier Millar stuff. And it's just, I just think back at it now, and it's like, they made these heroes like very unlikable to me, at least from what I remember. And then it got kind of off the rails and weird. Like the Joe Mad run, was that the second? Or
no, that was the third with Jeff Loeb.
So that with the Scarlet Witch Quicksilver like incest deal and the magic bullet, and like
that was definitely that one.
What the fuck is going on? It was like it kind of went off the rails to me, and I was just getting that because this artwork is nice. And then reading it, it's like, what is this Blob like biting Wasp's head off, and just really.
Yeah, an ultimatum.
Bizarre stuff. And like, yeah, just kind of like, this isn't fun. I mean, it's like, and I understand that's kind of the point of that to, the line, but I think it just kind of went a little bit, leaned too far one direction, you know what I'm saying? And then I think it was good that they ended. I'm glad they've kind of adopted Miles Morales as almost like the sole survivor until now. But if it's Miles Morales and the Maker, those are easily like probably the two most interesting characters and ideas to come out of it.
I didn't get into the Ultimate comics until I'd say like 2010, 2011. So like almost 10 years after this initial launch. but I was consuming those back issues like crazy. I was, looking for the Ultimate X-Men, the Ultimate Fantastic Four, the Avengers, like all of especially those early runs, like those first 10, 15 issues of, all of those titles were fantastic, man. I mean, you had, all the best writers doing. Brian K. Vaughan, I think, comes to mind. I think he did FF. I can't recall directly, but Brian K. Vaughan, Mark Millar, Brian Michael Bendis on Spider-Man, and the Kubert brothers, right? Andy and fucking Adam doing X-Men and Fantastic Four. It was like the lineup of creators they had was like A+ stuff. But I think, Ed, you described it best. Off the rails is where it went towards its end of its lifeline.
It went into like shock value and then them trying to emulate Millar's, but like, how can we amp up what he did? And it just didn't work.
There's a point where it doesn't fit the characters anymore, where you kind of like, if this was a different IP or a different thing, but it's okay, we can get, it's a blurry line, but you can get right up to it, like Millar I think is really good at. But once you get over it, it just kind of, to me, it just kind of, all right.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, so I'm excited to check out what Hickman does back at Marvel. All right, and I guess how can I smoothly transition this to Ed? Ed, speaking of comic books that have influenced comic book blockbuster movies, I think your next news piece is semi-related, right?
It's pretty good.
Could have used a little work, but I freestyled that one.
We'll fix it in post. Yeah, Millennium Media has announced that they're going to do another Hellboy reboot. So second reboot in 3 years, 4 years? But an interesting about this reboot is that Mike Mignola and Chris Golden are writing the series. They are writing the series, so it's going to be the first time he's involved with a script. I was checking out IMDb, and there's no casting information, but I've read that they are going to start filming in Bulgaria.
Oh man, places. My old stomping ground.
Botter's old stomping ground. Has like 10 kids over there.
One of them kids are going to be a background actor.
Yeah, they're going to start filming, but I haven't heard any. The IMDb just has, Christopher Golden, Mike Mignola, the director who's interesting, Bryan Taylor of Crank fame. If you've seen Jason Statham's Crank movies, and a Ghost Rider: Spirit of Vengeance, but he was also director in The Happy, that series.
Yeah,
so that's pretty cool. And
that is like every single one of Ashley's favorite things.
Oh,
Ghost Rider. Happy. I don't know if she likes Crank, but we'll just assume so. Yeah.
I can't say anything. I have both Cranks on DVD.
I mean, they're good movies, yeah.
Yeah, they're hilarious. But he's an interesting visual director, but an interesting choice. It's a great story if you guys haven't read it. It's
The Crooked Man, right?
Yeah, The Crooked Man is going to be based on The Crooked Man. Richard Corbin illustrated that. And like I said, 2008, 3-issue series. It's going to take place in Appalachia in the 50s. So it's the first Hellboy storyline that used kind of American folklore as its base.
Oh, that's cool.
As opposed to European and other countries. But like I said, there's very little talked about it and I'm thinking it's going to be a lower budget. They're shooting for an R rating, which doesn't mean they'll get it, but they are definitely not going to shy away from the gore and the horror. There's some body horror stuff in there. It's basically a story about a regional, like kind of witches in the area, a devil, a guy basically who collects souls for the devil. And I think they're introducing a new character, kind of like a rookie agent, whereas the original story, it was just Hellboy and kind of like a local returning from World War II, kind of investigating some disappearances and things like that. So this is probably the quickest turnaround for a reboot outside of Spider-Man. But the fact that Mike Mignola's involved, if it's done more as a classic horror than more of an over-the-top fantasy action movie with bad, questionable CGI like the last one.
Yeah.
I'm thinking if they can keep it like, practical props and monsters and body horror effects and keep it, he's got to look good. So hopefully they have a really good makeup with maybe touches of CG to make it work. But I think it's kind of interesting seeing what they do, because it's definitely a different direction from the previous movies story-wise as well.
Do you know why, Ed? I feel like this is just, my little theory, like we like to toss out on the show here. I think they're trying to do this reboot so fast because they know that if they wait any longer, pretty soon that terrible fucking 2019 Hellboy movie will just solidify in our minds and it'll just warp the way we look at Hellboy. I think that's why they called him the big gun. That's why they were like, Mike, you are the only guy that can save your franchise. All right.
Yeah.
David
the
Harbour.
only way to make people interested in it. Like, I have no interest in watching another Hellboy movie after the last one, but
that one
hearing that he's tied to it.
I guess that was the surprising part was that this is going to be Mignola's first time writing a script for has he ever written a script, period? I feel like he's got to have been involved in some of the other movies that he's been attached with, right?
But they're based on his comic stories, but
so I guess he gets
script writing is a different part of the process. So
got it.
This, from what I've read, this is the first time he's done the actual movie script. And then Christopher Golden is a author, and he's been a co-writer for Mignola for a while now, but he's also a novelist as well. So between those two guys, those two guys have gotten, at least according to IMDb, they have the full screenwriting credits. So
got it. Yeah, I'm looking at Mike Mignola's IMDb right now, and he's got writing credits for the Hellboy movies, obviously, Batman, Gaslight.
But to be fair, I looked up the Fantastic Four movie, and Stan Lee has a writing credit in there.
Oh, okay.
So
all right.
The writing credit can
because
basically
it's based
just
on the
a
source
creation.
material.
Yeah, that doesn't mean it does the screenplay. Yeah.
Well, that's cool. Well, then I'm all right. That gives me a little more faith in this news. I'll say that much. Lex, how do you feel about Hellboy? You fuck with Hellboy?
Yeah, I love Hellboy, and I've always thought that it works better in animation, just because.
Oh, for sure.
It's simple, but I realize for these big budget movies, we still don't think that animation can hang, even though Spider-Verse was such a success. So I was hoping that the next trilogy or whatever we got, series of one-shot movies with Hellboy, would have been more of the animated route. But I'm excited to see this. Like, practical effects works for me. I think it will work really good. So
yeah,
hopefully.
Well, maybe this might excite you because I have a similar feeling too when it comes to the animated route. Were either of you familiar of this new Hellboy game that was announced back in December? Hellboy Web of Weird. It looks like it's got like the very heavily kind of animated. It looks like they literally took Mike Mignola's panel, like comic book panels, and threw it up in the video game. Like hyper cell shaded graphics, super animated style.
Yeah, it looks great.
Unfortunately, there's no further word on when it's going to be released. But that looks like it's going to be badass.
Yeah, and Dark Horse is owned by a video game company now. So
that's right, yeah.
These things will be pumping out, I'm sure.
And then that kind of caused me to go down a Hellboy video game rabbit hole. And there's way more Hellboy video games than I thought. So he got his first video game treatment in 2000 with Hellboy Dogs of the Night on PC, which would later get ported to PlayStation as Hellboy Asylum Seeker. And then in 2004, Konami put out the Hellboy Signs of Evil game. That was based on the Del Toro Hellboy movies. So he's no stranger to video games. So I say all that to say I'm kind of looking forward to this Web of Weird for sure. All right, Ed, I'm going to follow up with that. And I'm going to talk about some manga, okay? I'm going to talk about DC releasing 3 manga titles starring Batman, the Joker, and Superman in June. Essentially, these are like Japanese imports being given like the English translation treatment. The 3 titles in particular are Joker, 1 Operation Joker. You've got Batman, Justice Buster, and Superman versus Meshi. And I'll read the solicitations for those in a second. But all 3 titles will initially be released as digital exclusives on the DC Universe app, which I still stand by that it is probably the best. Yeah, no, fuck it. I'm going to stand firm on them. Say it with my chest. I think the DC Universe app is probably the best comic reading app out there, personally. Minus sometimes the occasional crashing. But so they're going to be releasing these 3 titles as digital exclusives on the DC Universe app. They're also going to be updating the app itself to be more manga reader friendly. So that'll be kind of interesting to see what they mean by that. But fortunately for all of you physical media lovers, they will be following the digital releases, which are supposed to come out in June, with print collections, and those will be released in comic shops sometime in the fall. Now, solicitation-wise, and I think each one of these sounds fucking rad. So Joker 1 Operation Joker reads, it's the Joker like you've never seen him before, as a single father. Cue laugh track. After a fateful encounter of Batman that results in the Dark Knight de-aging to a baby, Joker takes it upon himself to raise the child into the crusader of justice.
That wouldn't happen.
That is a very...
He would eat that baby.
You know, he probably would. Yeah, he's a pig. All right, second book. In Batman, second book is titled Batman Justice Buster. To me, it kind of reads like, you remember that movie, Her, where it was Scarlett Johansson and... cannot recall his name right now. But he fell in love with his phone, the app.
Oh, yeah.
Joaquin Phoenix.
Yeah, Joaquin Phoenix. Thank you so much. I think that movie was called Her. Hopefully I didn't fuck that up.
Yeah.
But this kind of reads like Her meets Minority Report. Here's a solicitation. Gotham City has been under the protection of Batman for only a short amount of time, but since the vigilante's appearance, crime has changed. It's gotten more bold, more destructive. As Batman tries to rise to meet these new threats, he develops a computer system called Robin to help him analyze and subdue the rising criminal tide and hopefully one day put an end to crime in Gotham. So that was Batman Justice Buster. And last but not least, Ed, I know you got, I don't know how active your food account is, but I think this one is right up your alley, right? Really, this is up for any foodie's alley, right? The third manga title that's coming over to the US is called Superman versus Meshi. It's hungry work being Superman. That's why every day for lunch in Superman versus Meshi, Superman makes a quick stop over in Japan to try a new chain restaurant. Whether it's he's an influencer, he's a fucking Instagram.
What a
influencer.
wild idea!
Whether it's a hearty bowl of curry or conveyor belt sushi, the Man of Steel loves to indulge in the delicacies the country has to offer. He'll even share a meal with the other members of the Justice League from time to time in the hopes of showing them an incredible culinary experience. That's some shit you won't see in Zack Snyder's interpretation of Superman. It's him sharing the love of food with his fellow Justice Leaguers.
Anthony Bourdain as Superman. That's such a wild idea that
only a manga could do it.
Only manga.
Only the Japanese can nail it. And all of these right now, if you want them in Japanese manga form, they're all available on eBay. I didn't take a look at how expensive they are, but I'm more excited that they're coming over. So the company that DC has been working with is they've had a partnership with Kodansha, which is a Japan-based publishing company that's been around for a long time. They were founded in 1909, and they produce everything from comics to novels, journalism, and picture books. And I guess for up until this point, DC has been the only Western company in partnership with Kodansha. That changed in November of last year. In November 2022, Disney apparently announced that they were going to expand their partnership with Kodansha, and they were going to start producing more like original anime material for Disney Plus. So just some background information. Honestly, all three of these manga titles piqued my interest, but I gotta go. Superman versus Meshi. Superman as a foodie. That's the wholesome shit that I need to read. All right.
I wonder if he just dines and dashes. Where do you keep money in that? In those tights?
Yeah, that's weird. I've heard all about the Joker one operation with him raising Batman.
Yeah, I've seen like pictures of like pages and scans of pages, and I just thought it was fan art. I thought it was like a fanzine or along those lines.
Same. These other ones sound interesting. Honestly, Batman Justice Buster with Robin beating AI is pretty cool.
Yeah.
So when you said you thought of that movie, what is there something? Are you reading in between the lines of that description? Like he's going to fall in love with like the Carrie Kelly program?
Yeah, I mean, look, anything is possible. But I'm just saying, like, it sounds like for Batman Justice Buster, the two big kind of components is, this Robin AI system. And it just judging from the solicitation, it sounds like it might be a Minority Report situation, maybe. I don't know. I can see Batman falling in love with his fucking computer. He's a cold-hearted bastard, right? Like,
it's possible.
Yeah, very possible. But like I said, I'm excited to see more stuff like this, where it's like, Marvel and DC, taking leaps into like the world of manga, whether it be webtoons, but more importantly, the fact that my, membership that I pay for DC Universe gets me perks like this first. I think it's just further enticement of checking out DC Universe, and I'm sure Marvel Unlimited will probably follow suit.
Yeah, I'm just curious when they said that reader-friendly thing, if they're going to still keep them in those like those manga books sizes.
Well, they're saying they're going to release them on the app in serialized form. So I don't know if that means like one chapter a week, or if it'll be in like one volume. I'm curious how they're going to go about it then. And yeah, to your point, I wonder what they mean by making it manga reader friendly, because I feel like the most digital comic reading apps for the most part, whatever they call their particular system, they all kind of function the same, right?
Yeah.
Either you can go page view or you double tap and it does it, panel by panel.
This is go the other way.
Right? Like, so it's that's the only thing that entitles it to be manga reader friendly. It just reads instead right to left.
I remember like when the early stuff was coming to the States before it was going right to left, they would usually mirror the pages, or for an example, like Blade of the Immortal, they would recut the pages. So it would make sense reading left to right. But since more people, adapted to the right to left, manga style, and those are everywhere now. I mean, what does that mean now? Does that mean it's just going to read like whatever manga you pick up at Barnes and Noble or whatever? So it's just going to be right to left. Just curious. And if they do print it, it's smart because that stuff's everywhere, man. I mean, comics, I think, sell well, but manga kills it. I mean, that stuff will be in Target and Walmart. There's a manga section in Target now. Yeah. Like a legit section. It's wild.
And that's why I'm curious to see if this trend continues. Because obviously, I think like, legacy companies like Marvel and DC, no matter how big I feel like the films are, that doesn't always translate, I guess, to new comic book readers, right? Like, it doesn't matter how big the Ant-Man movie is. I think there's a very small percentage that are going to a comic shop, probably looking for these titles. But I think them leaning more into the manga market, it will probably be more fruitful, right? Like,
oh, for sure.
Those are already readers, right? They're already readers. They're reading comic books, whether it be, they're just Japanese comics, right? So for them to lean into the manga market, I think is a good look. Like I said, I didn't read the creators, but it seemed like they were all of like, Japanese background, that they were actually, I think for Batman Justice Buster, one of the creators has worked on Ultraman. So I'm curious to see the interpretation of these classic superheroes in the from the perspective of like Japanese creators and manga writers and illustrators. That's what I'm the most curious to see, is like, what fresh ideas can they bring to, characters that we've seen for years? Like, like we were kind of talking about, like, big event fatigue. Well, this Superman versus Meshi, it's silly as hell, but I mean, it's definitely piqued my interest.
Superman's got to eat. He's got to eat, right?
I love silly comic books too, so I'm excited to check these out.
It's interesting. It's like, as silly as it does sound, it will have an audience because there is like manga that is all based on food.
Yo, exactly.
It's just all food pictures.
Yeah.
Beautifully drawn food pictures. It's crazy.
Lex, what's your favorite manga or anime interpretation of like traditional Western superhero comics? Like how DC and Marvel have both, especially Marvel, they had like that run of anime titles, and then even like dabbled in like the manga Marvel verse. What are some of does anything stand out to you? Does anything come to mind?
I remember the manga verse when it came out, and I remember loving it at the time because I was huge into anime, which I still am. But revisiting it was not very good. I think I don't know, man. I enjoyed all they had multiple series. They had Blade, X-Men, Iron Man.
Mm-hmm.
I enjoyed those. They just seemed like they didn't put a lot of stock into it, though. They came out and they were just like, all right, we have them if you want them.
Yeah. I think it was like too early. Like Ed was saying, now, we're seeing manga sell very well, and that's like an understatement. I think when Marvel was trying their hand at the manga verse, I think it was still kind of early. I don't know if it was like, manga was as popular as it is now.
And it was still in like a Western format, too.
Yeah.
It wasn't even like stylized the same way.
It seemed to be like an authenticity that was missing out. And it was almost like we've borrowed aesthetic things, and then that's where we stop. And then there's nothing interesting besides just how it looks. Oh, it looks more like manga now. It looks more like something Japanese, but there's not. It's like more style than substance, But when you have Japanese creators, established Japanese creators taking shots at Western heroes, that's interesting to me. Because that's a whole new culture. So you get a whole new like the Superman is a perfect example. It's like a whole cultural shift and unlimited new stories that can come out of that.
Yeah. I wanted to make a low blow joke about CB Cebulski and his Japanese name Akira Yoshida.
Oh, that guy.
I'm gonna hold off on that and just write, and just say hashtag never forget Akira Yoshida. All right, that's all I'm gonna say. All right, that was the last headline that we'll be talking about today. Listeners, like I said, very heavy on the Marvel and DC news. Obviously, Ed brought us some Hellboy love. So tell us if we missed anything. I am curious what type of headlines and news come out between this Sunday that we're recording and the Wednesday this episode comes out. If we miss anything, or you feel like, or you want to ask us what we think about a particular headline or something like that, reach out to us via email, theshortboxjacks@gmail.com, or hit us up on Instagram, all right? I think it's a perfect time now to move into our next topic and figure out what comics Future Botter is going to pick up next month. Let's go ahead and grab a fistful of comics.
You can either have a mouthful of tea or a fistful of comics.
Fistful of Comics is a segment dedicated to helping all you comic-curious newbies find the best starting points in comics, and for the most loyalist of Wednesday warriors who are looking for something fresh to add to their pulls. Lex, I couldn't think of a better segment for you to be involved in. We're talking new comics Wednesday warriors, and you got the Wednesday pull. I think this is serendipitous.
I love it.
And to help us accomplish our mission of bringing you and highlighting the best new comics coming out next month, we've called on our friend Ben Kingsbury, the owner of Jacksonville's premier comic book shop, Gotham City Limit. You guys already know by now, Ben lives his life by one creed, all right? And that's to live life to the limit, especially when it comes to comics. So his recommendations reflect just that. These are the best comics worthy of your time and attention. Let's go and get some music going and see what he's got for us today on his list. So, kicking things off, all right, he's kicking things off his list with a hot comic stock tip, all right? That with the arrival of a new Image #1. You guys know how much we love those here on the show. Here's Ben to get us started.
Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, Shortbox listeners. I'm Ben K, representing Gotham City Limit, and there's no time like the present, so let's just jump right into it. First up, Image Comics presents Ambassadors #1. There are approximately 8 billion people on this planet. 6 of them can be gifted superpowers. Which 6 ordinary people would you choose? P.S. This first issue has artwork done by superstar Frank Quitely. Oh, and P.P.S. First print runs of all new modern Mark Millar comics, i.e. Nightclub, Magic Order, Nemesis Reloaded, sell out. Add this to your magical pull box now.
Like I said, hot comic stock tip. Hot comic stock tip. That was the Ambassadors #1. That'll be coming out through Image Comics on March 29th. The reason why all of those Mark Millar Image #1 sell is because he's got that sweet Netflix deal, and you never know which one of these is going to get a live action show.
Yep.
All right, next up on this list is a crossover as iconic and in demand as PB&J. And it's one that might remind you how old you truly are, like it did Ben. All right, Ben had an existential crisis sending this one in. All right, here we go.
Next up, IDW Publishing presents Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Usagi Yojimbo Where When #1, a brand new miniseries. This is a classic crossover, back with a brand new story and art by Usagi creator Stan Sakai. The 4 turtles have pursued the evil cyborg genius Dr. Werewin through a time portal and have emerged in feudal Japan. Usagi and TMNT both have a reverence for Japanese culture, which has made it easy for crossovers to occur between the two in comics, multiple animated series, and toy lines over the last 40 years. And I've been alive for all of it. Wow, I just realized I'm freaking old. Add this instant classic to your comic shopping list now.
Sometimes you just realize, damn, I'm old as fuck. Once again, that was TMNT Usagi Yojimbo, Where When #1. That's coming out through IDW Publishing on April 12th. I recently sold a sweet Usagi Yojimbo TMNT figure on Whatnot a few weeks ago, and I was this close to like kind of pocketing that one. Like, hey, I lost this. Sorry. Such a cool character design. All right, and last but not least, this next pick is this next voicemail is a little long, and that's because Ben said "fuck the rules," and he gave us not one but 2 picks in one for this last recommendation. You know he loves his themes and surprises. This is a prime example of Ben taking it to the limit, and here's how you do it. All right.
And last but not least, wait, hold up, rules? Who needs rules? At The Limit, we make our own rules. So when I was politely asked, hey, Ben K, can we have 3 more FOC picks for this weekend, please? I thought, I do what I want. So for your listening pleasure, I present the horror comic double feature. Just like the cinematic experience of getting 2 movies for the price of 1, here's 2 horror comic picks for the price of 1. First up, American Mythology presents Cartoon Puppet Horror Theater #1, which mixes your favorite puppets with abject horror. And after a delicious dabble in puppet horror, come check out Vault Comics Nasty #1. What happens when your imaginary friend, who happens to be a masked killer from your favorite slasher film, comes to life? A story about evil, the power of the horror genre, and some shit your pants terror. Don't let fear and fright prevent you from adding this one to your pull list now. Well, another week has come and gone, and I'm still Ben K representing Gotham City Limit. Remember, with great power comes great responsibility, and always take it to the limit.
It was the shit your pants terror that allowed me to let that one slide. All right, that's Ben taking it to the limit. Damn it! All right, gents. Of the 4 options presented today, which one are you most interested in? Which one would you realistically put on your poll list? Lex, what you got?
I'm probably going to add all of them, honestly. But the TMNT Usagi, it's the one that catches my eye the most. I'm a huge fan of both of those properties, so it's an easy pick.
Has Stan Sakai drawn TMNT like before? All 4 turtles and like in a sequential comic before?
That's a good question. I think they've had crossovers before.
I don't think outside of a Usagi book, I don't think he has.
I mean, we'd have to go back to like Mirage Studio days. If so, when they were hiring everybody they wanted to draw a comic back then.
Yeah. And it looks like this will be like either a 3 or 4 part series of nothing but all straight sweet Stan Sakai artwork and writing. So that'll be dope. Ed, what about you? What's your pick?
Oh man. Well, as much as I like horror, I don't know. These 2 don't really, is the puppet horror. I've kind of seen that, like the Happy Time Murders, Meet the Feebles. I've seen some twisted puppet stuff. Is it going to be better than that? I don't know. Like I said, Maniac in New York kind of takes care of that nasty #1 for me. But the first 2, I'm definitely getting. Ambassador 1, Frank Quietly and Mike Millard, definitely.
Oh, yeah.
That's going to be awesome. And the TMNT Usagi Yojimbo, just because I'm a big Stan Sakai fan. And like I said, it'd be cool to see that limited series and to see, like I said, I can't recall him drawing the turtles in a series outside of the pinups and stuff like that. But yeah, those 2 are the 2 I'll probably pick up for sure.
I think I'm going to take a page out of Ben's book, and I'm going to pick 2 as well. All right, fuck the rules. I think I'm going to just copy your homework. I think the Ambassadors #1 looks really interesting. And I don't know if Ben mentioned this in his pitch, but the Ambassadors is, I believe, a 6-issue miniseries, even though I can only see the first 5. But every single issue is drawn by a different artist to reflect the because the premise is 6 people out of 1 billion get superpowers, so every issue I think highlights one of those 6 individuals and their superpowers. So issue 1 is going to be drawn by Frank Quietly. Issue 2 is going to be done by someone called Carl Kerschel, and then issue 3 is the one that really piqued my interest. It's done by someone named Travis Charest, and this cover looks fucking amazing.
That guy's an old school Wildstorm guy.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I get that vibe here. And I believe issue 4, which is the last solicitation I can look at, is Olivier Coipel.
Nice.
So that definitely piques my interest because I was literally having a conversation with Walt the other day about Mark Millar's bibliography. And I feel like he's got I don't know if it's underrated. Maybe he's appropriately praised and rated, but Mark Millar's got some hits, man. Like when you look at everything he's done, Ultimates, Kick-Ass, I'm drawing a blank. I'm like, everything he's done, like it's a long list. Right? I'm drawing a blank.
Jupiter's Legacy,
Super Crooks, Nemesis are starting to come back. The Wolverine series,
All-Star Superman.
Wait, did he do All-Star Superman?
Mark Millar and Frank Quietly.
I thought All-Star Superman was done by Grant Morrison.
Was it? You're right.
Yeah.
My bad. Scratch that.
You're like, that's how good Mark Millar is. You're like, nah, he's done a lot. But no, the fact that Mark Millar is still consistently putting out work, and the battery in his back being that sweet Netflix deal, I'm here for it, man. Because he's always teaming up with some good ass artists, and of course, TMNT Usagi Yojimbo. the covers look amazing. You know, I'm here for more Stansakai. That's the list, listeners. If any of those pique your interest, do yourselves a favor. Go hit up your local comic shop and get your pre-orders in now. As always, a big shout out to Ben for always providing us some top-notch recommendations and helping us take it to the limit, all right? I appreciate every week that, you know, he gets us out of our comfort zone. And remember, even if you don't live in Jax, you can still take it to the limit by shopping at the Gotham City Limit online store for comics and exclusive variants. I know they've got an exclusive Gotham City Limit Tyler Kirkham X23 variant coming out here in the next week. So you can go to Gotham City Limit's online store to go ahead and pre-order one for yourself. There's a link in the show notes if you're interested in checking that out. Lex, man, thank you so much for the assistance today. Thank you for the alley-oop. You've been great. I'm going to have links to your socials. I'm going to have a link to the Wednesday Pull List pod in the show notes for people to give you a follow. But would you mind telling us what you and Simon got going on or coming up next for the pod?
Oh man, I really don't even know. It's always so random. We are honing in on getting a schedule and everything set, but yeah, just continuing to do trade reviews. We want to start highlighting more weekly issues, but yeah, it's more of the same.
Good stuff. Good stuff. So a fellow fly by the seat of your pants podcast. You know, we've got the next week planned out, but don't ask us what we're doing in April. I like it. Good stuff. Well, Lex, thank you so much for kicking it with us, man. And to our listeners, man, if you enjoy good comic book podcast content, or when you're going through your short box withdrawals and you're not a Patreon subscriber, look, you got the Wednesday pull list you can go ahead and hop on over to, all right? Now, next up, we're going to announce the winner of our Collective Con ticket giveaway, and we're going to give you some recommendations that you should check out the next time you're looking for something to watch on TV, or the next time that you're bored and you're like, I just want to try something new. We got you covered. But first, we're going to go ahead and take a break. We're going to stretch our legs. Here's some music from our guy, Lerm. Enjoy the music, and we'll be right back. Yo, and we are back. Once again, the music you just heard was produced by our guy, Lerm. I got links to his YouTube and I think even a SoundCloud in the show notes. Check it out if you want more music. If you want to hear more of his music, you should absolutely support him, of course. Now, as far as our next segment, like I said, we're going to announce the winners of these Collective Con tickets. If you recall last episode and some of the promos you might have heard, all you had to do was send us an email explaining to us who you were most excited to see when it came to celebrity guests that'll be at Collective Con March 17th through the 19th. And we were just going to make a decision from there, right? And we got 2 entries today that we'll go ahead and read. One of them comes from our guy, Trey Namo. He sent in an email that, appropriately was titled Collective Con Tickets. And he writes, obviously, the only correct answer for who we all want to meet at Collective Con is John DiMaggio, because Bender is easily a top 5 robot of all time. I don't know if I'm going to argue with him on that one, Ed. I think Bender is definitely a top 5 robot. All right, he goes on to say, and for my second pick, I'm going to have to go with his partner in crime, Billy the Goat West. His performances in almost any line of work is always perfection. Plus, a signed Futurama #1 by both Billy and John would be the icing on the cake. I like that opportunist in you, Trey. That's a good look. Big love and respect from your homie, Trey Namo. P.S. I'm going to need a Last of Us review ASAP. Hey, Trey, I'm going to give you a one-sentence Last of Us review. That shit has been awesome and very emotional lately. All right, I'm looking forward to seeing how it ends. All right, so we got John DiMaggio and Billy West as Trey's most anticipated celebrity guest. All right, that's a good little lineup right there. All right, and we got one more email from our guy, Jason Barnes. He also wanted some of these tickets, so he wrote in, and his email goes, "You, the celebrity that I'm most excited to see is Jim Cummings. He has been the voice of my childhood and parts of my adulthood. Star Wars fan, he's the voice of Hondo Ohnaka. Disney fan, he's the voice of Winnie the Pooh, Tigger, Ed from The Lion King. He's also partly Scar's singing voice. Look up the story. He's Monterey Jack and Fat Cat, Louie and Don Carnage, Bonkers the Bobcat, Darkwing Duck, and Pete the Dog.
Oh, wow.
Comic book fan? Question mark. He's Savage Dragon, Barry the Tick, MODOK, the Shredder, Genghis Frog, Leatherhead, and Shocker. Oh, this list does not stop. Gaming fan? Question mark. He's Psycrow, Dr. Robotnik. God, look, he continues going. Are you a pop culture fan? Well, Jim Cummings is also the Tasmanian Devil and Fuzzy Lumpkins. Have I said enough?
Wow.
Thanks, Jay Barnes. No, Jay, I just got schooled. Jeez Louise. Yeah, no, his IMDb goes pretty crazy. All right.
Good picks.
Yeah, this is the tough part, right?
Mm-hmm.
Who wins these tickets?
I kind of like the 2-for-1 Futurama combo.
That is a good look.
Not only mentioned them, but he's got, a reason to go, get an autograph from him. Or he's got a mission to accomplish, I should say.
That's a good point. I appreciate Trey's hustle, all right? You want to talk about a guy that knows how to navigate a comic convention and get the most out of it?
Oh, yeah.
That's the guy right there. I'm going to go ahead and go inside of Jason Barnes.
Okay.
But he schooled us onto some stuff, man. And know I love to get, informed by our listeners. And I just got a whole crash course in Jim Cummings. I mean, the guy apparently has also voiced a lot of my childhood as well. So here's what I suggest, all right? We're both kind of split evenly. We don't have a third party. We probably should have asked Lex to stay for at least this part. So what we'll do is we'll flip a coin, all right? I got a virtual coin flip tab on my Google Chrome.
That's how broke
right
we
now.
are. Subscribe to Patreon.
Subscribe to Patreon so we can have at least a quarter to flip. I forgot to grab one. But I think this is the next best thing, right? I'm trusting Google to be fair. What you got, heads or tails?
Heads.
All right, heads, Trey wins these tickets. Tails, Jason wins these tickets. All right, I'm flipping. Here we go. Oh, this is a cooler animated flip. That was a really weak ass flip for the record, but it landed on heads. Trey, you won these tickets, brother. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and give you a round of applause.
Yeah,
congratulations. I hope you get your Futurama #1 signed, and I also hope that it does not sour our friendship. Hopefully, you're not like hating ass Botter wouldn't even choose me. Nah. Big shout outs to Trey.
Google chose it. Sorry.
Yo, exactly. AI, man. We just let Batman's Robin AI pick it. So big shout outs to Trey and Jason for sending in an email and being a part of the giveaway. The good news is if you missed out on this giveaway, we are going to do we're gonna run this contest back strictly on our Instagram. So we'll have the same rules. We'll ask people to chime in and leave a comment about who they're most excited to see. But that'll be limited to only on Instagram. Matter of fact, that post should go up either today or tomorrow after this episode airs. So stay tuned to that. If you still want to try to win some tickets to Collective Con, we got another giveaway, and that'll be, like I said, that'll live on our social media. Moving on. Let's get on to champion season, all right? It's time for our last segment of the show, but one of my favorite segments.
It's time for Champion Season.
Champion Season is the part of the show where we highlight everything else that has consumed our free time, which includes the movies, the TV series, the books, the video games, and any other entertainment options that we'd personally recommend to friends just like you. Ed, what you got for us today, man? What you going to champion?
I got a couple. The first one I'll do real quick. It's the second season of Vox Machina on Amazon Prime. I love the first season. I'm not familiar with the characters, but I've been talking. There's a couple of people at work who are really into the podcast, and it's basically started as kind of like a role playing game, but they turned it into like a radio kind of show, radio serial type of show. And like I said, Amazon Prime came out with it maybe a year or two ago, first season. Loved it, loved the characters. And then season 2 dropped, and it starts off, hits the ground running. It is awesome. The episodes fly by quick. They're quick 20, 25-minute episodes. If you're a role-playing game fan, like I said, if you are a fan of the previous material, let me know how you like it, because I'm in this brand new. So this is my introduction, but I love the show. Animation looks great. This one, like I said, basically 4 dragons team up and just tear shit up right off the bat. And it is incredible. Yeah, it's a second season really ramps up from the first season. So Like I said, I'm looking forward to the third season, like high production value, beautiful animation.
Cool.
And the second one, I'm going to champion friend of the show, Jim Rugg, Hulk Grand Design. Like I said, this just dropped this week, this last Wednesday.
Hold on, and not just the Grand Design. We're talking the Treasury Edition,
Treasury
oversized.
Edition. Yes, sir. To go along with his buddy Ed Piskor's X-Men.
Oh yeah,
Grand Design.
Right, yeah.
So, like I said, it is a 60-year, almost like love letter to 60 years of the Hulk. So basically, Jim Rugg, he did the design of the book. He did all the artwork, and there's part scrapbook. He reprints an Eric Larson, some classic covers, an Eric Larson Hulk story, minis, short. You know, like I said, some magazine covers. It's just like almost like part fanzine, part scrapbook.
Holy shit! I didn't actually. I won't lie. I did not flip to the back for the bonus content. That's and like pretty rad.
This was, I guess, a childhood favorite for Jim Rugg. So basically, 60 years up to, it looks like the Maestro.
Yeah, Future Imperfect.
Future Imperfect. So he's reprinted some letter pages. So it is a cool. Basically, it's a great reference book for any Hulk fan. It's I said, it is a love letter to Bruce Banner. And there's like Mr. Fix-It. There's even the little Savage Dragon thing. They did a little poke at him back in the day. So it's an awesome book. Highly recommend it if you like the cartoonist kayfabe guys. And if you want to see a really cool tribute to the Hulk that looks nothing like mainstream work, then yeah, check it out.
Yeah, well said. It's remarkable to think that one guy took 60 years of continuity and was able to dilute it down to like a 2-issue, recap series. And I think this Treasury Edition is the most probably appropriate form to showcase that series. Matter of fact, I picked this up as well because I saw Jim promoting it. I'm a sucker for Treasury Editions. And I also ended up picking up the Elektra Black, White, and Red Treasury Edition.
Oh.
But I noticed that this Hulk Grand Design is much bigger than the traditional Treasury sizes. So a little extra size for our guy Hulk. Those are good picks. All my picks are like old, like 2000s old. So my first champion is Ultimate Comics The Ultimates by Jonathan Hickman and Esad Ribic. It came out in 2011. I'm reading this again, I think for the second time probably. Because of the news of Hickman and coming back to Marvel. This was before he did his Avengers and New Avengers run. I think this is even before his Fantastic Four run. It's definitely before his Secret Wars run as well. To me, this was kind of like his beta run to doing all those big stuff. This is where he introduced the Maker and all of that. So before he destroys the Ultimate Universe, he contributes this run. And in total, it ran for 30 issues, but I'll be honest, I stopped after Hickman left, much like I've done in a lot of his series, like X-Men. He leaves after issue 12, but not before like setting the groundwork for introducing the Maker and the Children of Tomorrow. And he really kind of pits the Avengers, like basically like meets their match when they fight like the Maker, because he's as brilliant as Reed Richards. He's just fucking evil, and he builds like this dome in the middle of, I think like in the Midwest, and inside of this dome, he builds like a civilization that like ages really fast. Like they're, centuries old, but they're brilliant because, it's the fucking Maker's kids, and they're called the Children of Tomorrow. And at some point they ended up busting out of this dome and they just completely just manhandle everybody. I think their first victims are like the Asgardians, like they completely decimate them. And, now it's up to Nick Fury and the Avengers to figure out how the hell do we stop these guys. So if you love Hickman, at all, and you haven't checked this out, highly recommend it. And Esad Ribic, brings it, man. He absolutely brings it on the art side. So I'll champion that. And then going even older than 2011, I'm going to champion the movie Snatch because I just watched it for the first time last night. Movie came out January 2001, right? That's how old, that's how behind the times I am. But I saw that it was on Hulu among some other gangster flicks that I need to rewatch. But I noticed, it was on Hulu. I've never watched Snatch. I know it's like Drew has always kind of championed it. I know it's like a well-loved gangster flick. Have you ever watched it yourself?
Yeah, it's been a while, but yeah. Guy Ritchie, right? And Brad Pitt.
Yeah,
incomprehensible dialect, whatever he's.
And here's the thing: I watch everything with captions on pretty much, and I was really glad I had it on this time. The downside to captions is that sometimes it takes up a lot of the screen depending on what service you're using. Like Amazon Prime is like 40% of the screen is this fucking caption box. But I needed it for this movie because you're right. Brad Pitt is, I can't make out a word he's saying. But for anyone that hasn't seen it, if you're behind the curb as badly as I was, the movie was directed by Guy Ritchie, who's directed movies like The Man from U.N.C.L.E., the Sherlock Holmes movies, Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels. And it was produced by Matt Vaughn, who has produced The Kingsman, Kick-Ass, and the X-Men movies. In the movie, you've got Jason Statham is in there, Alan Ford, Brad Pitt, Benicio del Toro. It's definitely like a really good lineup of actors. And it follows an illegal boxing promoter named Turkish, who's played by Jason Statham, who convinces this gangster, Alan Ford's character, Bricktop, on some bare-knuckle boxing. It's illegal boxing, so they're throwing fights that causes trouble with another set of gangsters, and then you've got like this giant diamond, stolen diamond, that's at the center of the story, and it's a lot of different plot points and characters moving about. So if you like your gangster flicks like blended with a classic style heist movie tropes, and then interweaving plot points and like with a large cast of characters, I highly recommend you finally watch it like I did. All right. Definitely, if it's been on your list for a minute, go ahead and watch it. It's on Hulu, so do that. And with my my champion picks, that kind of brings us to the end of the show. Shortbox Nation, it's your turn to chime in, all right? Whether you got a worthwhile champion pick that you feel that me and Ed should check out, or if you got a piece of news, maybe a comic headline or news happen in between us recording this and putting it out that you want to share with us, we want to hear from you, all right? Write into us via email at theshortboxjacks@gmail.com, or hit us up on Instagram or Twitter, right? So let me know that you want me to read your DM on the show, and I'll do just that. Ed, do we got any takeaways or lessons or parting words to leave our listeners with today?
Man, parting words. I guess I never thought I cared about what Superman eats in between fights.
You know what? Let me see if I can help polish that. Crime fighting is a hungry business, and when you have the ability to travel anywhere faster than a speeding bullet, your options are pretty wide open. All right, and why not go to Japan for all the delicious?
Where do you keep that wallet at, Soup? I need to know.
Do you think Superman even pays? You think he just shows up and they're like, "Oh shit, you saved my cousin a few months ago. I kind of owe you."
Oh man. I don't know.
Imagine being Superman and saving people, but
Getting
having
like, wait a minute, what? I saved the world. I literally spun the world around to go back in time and beat somebody. Inflation, Superman. Times are tough.
We'll see if we dedicate a whole episode just to that manga series. I feel like it might warrant
that sounds like a Patreon bonus.
That absolutely sounds like it. Well said, Ed.
Yeah.
I like the opportunist mindset. I love it. All right, well, there you have it, Shortbox Nation. Thank you for hanging out. I hope you enjoyed the conversation. A big shout out to our guy Lex from the Wednesday Pull List podcast. Please give my friend a follow if you're looking for more great comic podcasts to add to your rotation. If you enjoyed this episode, the only thing I'm going to ask is that you spread the word to other comic fans in your life. If you know someone that would enjoy our dialogue and loves comics as much as we do, please share the show with them. Or leave us a 5-star rating and review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. That's also another great way to spread the word for us. Next week, I'm going to try to have an interview lined up. But if that falls through, I'll probably do another Patreon preview. Like I said, me and Ed recorded a bonus episode talking about the 2010 G.I. Joe animated show, G.I. Joe Renegades. It was part of our spin-off podcast series, Pilot's License. So if you're a fan of animated comic book shows or comic book cartoons, that'll be right up your alley. I might share a preview of that if this interview falls through. Regardless, come back next Wednesday. We'll have something new for you. And like I always plug, if you suffer from short box withdrawals and you want more content to hold you over, head over to our Patreon community, all right? For more content and bonus episodes, me and Drew are scheduled to record another previews spotlight episode here in the next week or two. Regardless, in the meantime, I want you to take care of yourselves. I want you to enjoy your comics too. I know you got a fat sack of books in the corner just waiting for you to read them, just like I've got. Go ahead and find time to read your comic books. And please continue to make mine and your short box. We'll talk to you next week. Peace.